Here we are looking at the 30/30 list. These are the top 30 momentum companies on the ASX over the last quarter. We will find in there the market leaders. Then we have followed up with the Launchpad list. They've shown promise in the last week and quite possibly they become the next market leaders. This list gets shared each week with Gary Glover. He gets it on a Thursday afternoon, recording one day early. And the members get it at the same time to send through. So they look at the charts just like Gary does. They mark them up, find the lessons, the leaders, and then we analyze the setups, the breakouts, and the volume price analysis. Members get it at the same time and send through their requests and join along with the education side of it because they get to review and use this video to check their own markup. If you want to do the same, click join below and you'll get next week's list in time so you can mark your homework on this recording. We also welcome back Gary for a week away and he's come back with a fresh insight and a new setup. So from a comments perspective, he hasn't yet named this setup and strategy and variation. So put below your suggestions of the name and maybe it'll take. So Gary, you've come back fresh, refreshed, and identified something new in the market in the current climate. So how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, not so new, but just like a variant of the VCP sort of set up there, but there's a particular sort of type of VCP which is kind of working pretty well at the moment, and also I think it sounds funny, but seeing this particular type of setup there kind of reminds me of sort of a boxing sort of type of setup, so that so I thought maybe a boxing name might be quite good around it as well. So I was trying to think of sort of something there. But as I was sort of looking at this sort of setup, I started going through the list, and I was surprised actually how many of the momentum stocks had this sort of setup as well. So so it's just a slight variation there. Just maybe something which might just help people, our traders there, and maybe people are new to it as well. VCPs help them identify it a bit better as well. So I think this sort of, if we come up with a good name for this trade here, it might help us, help us identify it a lot more as well and see it there. Because it does look for certain sort of characteristics that we want to see.
Yeah, well, it does help to have a name that suits, like the cup and handle is a brilliant one, and then it sort of imprints it in your mind when you have a lot of examples quickly to sort of, like you do with your blueprint and your playbooks. Yeah. So you've been away for about a week or so. You have been trading while you're away, which is, I don't know, it's a good thing or a bad thing from a disconnect, but you love the market, so you can't help yourself. And
I haven't. I did put two trades on while I was away, so just because I can't help myself. But I've probably lost a bit. I've probably gone backwards a little bit over the last 2 or 3 weeks because I've sort of tried to wind down rather than sort of snap myself out completely. I left a few trades on, and I just sort of found I was looking at my P&L. I sort of been sort of grinding slowly down the last couple of weeks. So this week I was like, I want to get back into it and good trades here. So I've managed to get a few good trades on, but yeah, it's a tough market here because it feels like it's a lot of small caps, Chris, as well. So I noticed a lot of commentary about small caps, and a lot of people saying that small caps on the verge of a major move here, and commodities on a verge of a major move. So just got to be, you and I were just talking earlier, just got to be cautious with that, because we know that when in the past, and I spoke about this over and over again, it's that those high inflationary periods of the past, we know that energy, precious metals, and value shares, so stocks that pay dividends, they were the 3 best performing sectors when inflation was high, when you've had central banks put a lot of money, which we're in there. So even though inflation has now cooled off, still in the past there, we've had, we've often seen reinflationary pressures, and those inflationary pressures exist for a while and have kept those periods. And those markets there, those precious metals, energy and value, that they will go through cycles as well. That's not just all like the 70s there. You can have like, some 100, 200% return some years, but then there's some 50, 100%, there's a big move on the downside as well. So it's not just all one-way traffic. There's cycles there's probably 2 or 3 runs in there. And we're seeing that with energy. We've seen, the oil price, pop there and all stocks run and then it congest and then they run again. We've seen uranium have a pop and pull back and then pop again. We've seen lithium join the party here after having a bit of a negative cycle. So we've seen the coal stocks have a run, have a cool off, have a run again. So we're definitely still seeing that rotation through there. So just gotta be careful with, trying to, and we know the normal market, Chris, is, big caps start cycle first, mid caps, and then we start going through the small caps. So to me, it should be a bit of a warning here that we're saying when these small caps starting up. So I don't know is that what your report saying, small caps, or I don't know what sectors there, but what are telling us here?
Well, I found it really, really interesting. I'll just load this up, get the screen share going. Hopefully Zoom can tell me that it is happening. Yeah, it looks like it is. I'll make it full screen. So this is an interesting, I'll come back to the signal strength because it does fit in with what you're saying, but to answer the question directly, the momentum profile that we've got, and we had yesterday afternoon, Wednesday, was the best we've had in the last 12 months. The average score of the top 30 momentum companies is better than we've had in the last 12 months. And that's partly because, as we're going to see in this list, and you'll walk through those setups, there's a huge representation of the small mid caps, small micro caps in this list. And they can be more explosive. They can run harder and faster. And for us to have such a pronounced momentum set up in the top 30 companies, well represented, good momentum trades, while the percentage of companies on the ASX is not as high as we have seen. So the percentage of companies over the 50-day moving average, that's kind of the breadth that you're talking about. And then yes, there's more representation in the small micro caps. And quickly for the context, we're at 47.808. So how does this compare to previous momentum markets we've had? Well, this green line is steadily above sort of the orange to blue, which is pretty average for us. The absolute hottest, best momentum markets that we have seen in the past, they're pink and purple. So we're not there COVID times, but we're definitely above the average for the last 12 months. And then the final aspect to look at this is then, well, what are we trading? So if we know that there's good momentum in the market, do we look for the launch pad and try find the leaders there, or do we stick with the momentum leaders? And this signal strength here being really, really, really high, that's telling us to keep those momentum setups. If we see a good momentum company, we need to kind of try to find an excuse, Kalamagi style, to buy back into that leader. And the bottom chart here tells us the percentage of these momentum leaders that we're looking at. Are they coming from the launch pad, or are they just resurging the same ones, just going for another rally? And that really fits in with what you've identified. These two charts here are statistically saying exactly what you've identified. This is the type of market that we're in. The leaders are leading, the microcaps are leading, and they're continuing to cycle through, like you just listed, all those different commodities. So that's the strong point that we're pulling from that data. That list members get if they want access to it. It's a daily update. So click join and go to the momentum profile list. But I think it's time for us to look at these charts and hopefully we can find some of these setups that you've identified.
So can I show you a question there, Chris? We're going to answer. So we're obviously seeing less stocks above the 50-day moving average. So we are starting to see stocks breaking down, but from a momentum perspective, we're seeing some pretty elevated stocks, which we know they're small caps because they can move this. I mean, that we know that they're usually like the last sector in the cycle, but because they're small in nature, they can be moved around a lot more. So, and we had, like, I've been looking the last couple of weeks, and gee, there's some small 20, 30 cent stocks here, 5 to 6 cent stocks that have gone up 100 to 300, 4%. So there's some big moves as a small name. So you've had a long period of maybe underperforming there, but yes, some sharp moves here as well. So it's, but I do, some are viewing that as a change in character for the market. I'm not so sure. I think it's the classic setup there. It's just, this market's been pretty strong. It's run for quite a while. It hasn't had much of a breather here, so it's just probably got a little bit more ferociousness in it. yeah, I'd still be a little cautious there personally, just considering we haven't had that pause there. And like I know the Nasdaq's now basically expanded 200% of the higher range there, which is a big level. So yeah, and we haven't had too many down days in a row. Like we've just had, we've had so many 8 or 9 days in a row going up without any down days. So yeah, so just where we look, momentum's obviously place to go. And it's to me, I've actually sort of had the handbrake on because it's an amber curve for me, so I'm not betting as hard. So sometimes I wish I hadn't, man, but that's my plan. So I'll just stick with that until it proves me. So otherwise, over a longer subset. But yeah, we're still getting a few stocks breaking down here. I guess that's the interesting part here. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, so as you load that, I do find it interesting that we're having a lower representation of tradable companies over their 50-day moving average. And as Gary commented to me before in recording, the XJO is just broken under the 50-day moving average. For the average trader at home, they'll look at that and say there's no opportunity. But we know as momentum traders, there's an abundance of opportunity. Just as Gary noted, we need to be careful when we're in that smaller micro space, especially Gary and I do. But a lot of you trade at home and you trade this small micro cap space really well. And here's a solid chart. So walk us through it, Gary.
Yeah, no, well, to be honest with you, like I had that. This is the one that I was sort of talking about. Was kind of like I kind of caught my eye while I was away, just because it had that big burst there, and I just kind of made me think about often so sort of stocks that they'll sort of build a little bit, but then all of a sudden they have that big burst, big impulsive move, and then they have the VCP. They tighten up, and see how this is like it's. You can see the volume dries up in here, really, really dries up, and then it explodes again. It's kind of, to me, it kind of reminds me of the boxing there, where it's almost like the jab, then the block, and then the pausers, and then the jab and the left hook, knock it out. And it's sort of, that's the sort of that sign of strength, that sign of power. Then the market sort of has that controlled contraction there, and then it goes against. This is what we're trying to look for. Oftentimes we want to see, I know Callum maybe talks about that holding the 10 and then or the 20. I don't know if he talks about holding the 20 there, but this kind of reminds me of just reminds me of a boxing phrase there, and that you come out swinging, then it's it's almost like the Muhammad Ali, sort of George Foreman there, where Ali comes out swinging in the first couple of rounds, but then just he goes into defense mode and just it's like the rope a dope. He takes all the punishment, and the market just contracts here, and then he waits for the stop to get tired, and wait for Foreman to get tired, and then he comes out and he comes out swinging, way to go. So it kind of made me sort of think this is a pattern, and if you go through all the stocks there, SRL, which was number 2, we can see there that had the sort of show of strength in there, had another show of strength in there, and it sort of hugged the 20 here and the 10, had another pop here, and then it sort of comes back, a little ABC. Money doesn't sort of hit the 20, then it explodes there off that level, and goes pretty high as well. And then like 4DX, which has been one of the other, look, that's had the show of strength, that really power trend, comes out of the gates, big volume. Then it dries up with a lighter volume, holds the moving average here. So like sitting on the 20 again, and then power bang. So it's like, jab, block, jab, bang. It's sort of like it's that rope a dope. And it kind of made me think, we should give this trader the name. I like the boxing sort of theme because that is a powerful move. That's what it starts. Powerful move, contraction, another powerful move. So I don't know if we call it the rope a dope, which I quite like because it means we're basically sitting on the ropes. And we're sitting on the 10 or the 20 or the 50, whatever it is. And then we're going again. But maybe we just call it the rumble in the jungle, which because a pretty cool name. But it just kind of gets us thinking about seeing that strength, seeing the pause, holding on the ropes, and then coming out swinging. And that's, I don't know, I kind of quite like the analogy. Yeah. It will actually help me, as a trader there. It's going to help me identify it a bit better because I want to see that strength. contraction, sit on the ropes, pop again. That's kind of what we're looking for. I mean, if we go through all these sort of setups there, FXG as well. I mean, this is a smaller one there. It's had a little bit of strength in here. I'll make a retest the higher, pulls back here, holds the sort of 50, holds the ropes, and then comes through. We'll see that sort of strength there. So, pretty powerful name as well. I think RAC as well here. I mean, this is the Kalamagi one where we really come out hard here, pops back to the 10. There's all that, no volume there. So the volume dries up. So we're sort of seeing that classic volume dry up, holds the 10 there, and then bang, goes again. So, don't know. I know it's a VCP, but I like the boxing analogy there because it sort of gives us a little bit of assistance in there. We're seeing that power, seeing the sort of pause, the contraction, sitting on the ropes, on the MAs, and then power again. Because we are seeing a lot of those stocks come out powerfully, come back and sit on top of the MAs. And sometimes they break below the MAs, but it gives us an area to really to identify and to watch closely and see if it actually can hold there. I just know for me, that's been working pretty well. Seeing that real strength and power, then come back and contract and then sitting on there. So, so I hope I didn't skip through too many names there. But I mean, these are all just, have sort of shown that, they've come out of VCPs, and here, this has ended up breaking out, sitting on top of the previous move as well, holding the moving average and then gone. So, I mean, this is typical of what we're seeing here. Some of these sort of, what smaller names, running hot, powering through. Just trying to think to put the FXG. I mean, it's too small for me personally, but we're seeing no sort of strength there. I thought BNZ number 14 was pretty good as well, because I mean that's done it a few times there, Chris. It's sort of showing that strength there. Look at that power in the trend. We're seeing a big volume. We've broken out here, so we go to 52-week highs. We break out, so we know 52-week high is a breakout in itself. That's a trigger, any trigger as well. But then the whole thing contracts in here. The whole thing tightens up here. Does a little David Ryan sort of shimmy here underneath the high here. Little VCP cup and handle here, and then comes through again. But look how that's, there's definitely strength in there. Then you see the contraction. Okay, we're holding the, it comes back here and it holds the 10, all that. So holding the 10 and the 20. Even in here again, if you go through another VCP and the whole thing sort of sits, it does sort of flirt just below the 20 there, but it managed to sort of keep, each day it manages to close above the 20. So I know like a lot of momentum traders in States there, they don't like, they use the closing price. I mean, I do look at the lows there personally, because I always have stops in the market, but a lot of professional traders won't have stops in the market, or might only have half their position with stops in, and the other half they'll look at the closing price. It means they might get knocked out at a lower level, which I personally don't like. I like to contain my risk, but a lot of traders will actually have, maybe half or even all of it not in the market, and then they'll only stop themselves out if it looks like it's, the last 5-10 minutes or last half hour it's going to close below. But we can see again that holds the ropes, so it's
That's right. It's bank the moving averages.
moving averages. So those 10 and 20s as well. So it's just a powerful sort of, for those that are trying to work out VCPs and momentum names, there is, we just, I think it's a really good analogy there, because it's sort of, you're seeing that sign of strength, then the pullback, sitting on the rope, sitting on those MAs, and then going in. Look, sure, someone's going to break through. Someone will break through the next level there, but if you see that tightening up, and then, what you want to sort of see there. I mean, for me, when I was looking at LTP, this is what struck me when I was away, was that day there. I literally logged on that day. Yeah. So it's come back A, B, C. That is just tightened up here. There's no selling in here. And that's shown the power. So it's come out the blocks here, big move. And they come in here. For me, I was sort of like, because I was sort of on holidays, I just put a line in, and I kind of like put it on, and I thought, if I get filled, I get filled. If I don't, I don't. So I only got half filled. So, But if I was watching that open the next day, I would have got myself a complete fill straight away. But I was unfortunately skiing that day. But yeah, that was a strong move, and then the whole thing's kind of a go, and now we've just got a little cup and handle within the. It's funny. I did see this last couple of days. And I thought, I went back and looked at a few of the other VCPs that look like this, and then they tended to actually congest for a few more days before they break up. So, but yeah, so normally they might spend a bit more time making that handle there, but yeah, but it just goes to show, man, there's some good setups there, but they're all sort of similar. So number 15 there, I've got 15 just to watch, IVZ, because we've had that power move, big volume, and now we're in a bit of a contraction phase. So now we just got to see, this needs to use up a bit of time here. So yeah, that's the hard thing now, is to sort of give it time so that the novice trader will see, it's come back a little bit to the 10 or 20, So at this stage there, it's really run so hot, it needs time to sort of congest here, and so just on pause. Man, the good signs is so far we're seeing no volume there. So there's our high there.
It was more than half the range, definitely.
Yeah, so sort of 3 days. Yeah, so sort of 3 days down there, a little bit, so not much. Volume didn't come back on the buy, and then we've got a down day there. I mean, that's moved through a lot of levels without big volume. So that tells you there's not really much selling going on, So, but maybe this tightens up here, and we'll keep an eye on it. So that's the first ingredient you want to see. The second ingredient is to see that contraction there. Hopefully it contracts back and it holds on the ropes, on the right rope, So, yeah.
So I like this setup that you've got, and I've got to say it'll be over 10 years since I did this study, but I looked at over 300 of these types of setups. Minimum requirement is a 75% rally, so kind of fitting with your 100% club that you've talked about before. Explosive volume, then we're going to have some sort of compression in the high. You've got to hold more than 50% of the range, whether it was 75%, 100, more, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So then I just started knocking them out. Okay, well, did it violate 50% of the range? Did it not really have a volume breakout at the start and show full conviction, change of character, what you would call at other times?
Yeah.
So I went through and narrowed them down, and then what I found the two most informative takeaways from that study was I rarely saw something do more than 3 solid drives of 75, 100% gains. So like you've got there in front of you, and then you have that little compression, and then a second one. The third one, they rarely actually hit profit target, being that using the measurement rule of Thomas Walkowski's 5-type flags. The other takeaway, which then led me down this nazi path that I've been on for over a decade, was if I wanted to identify the most likely candidates of hitting these massive profit targets and going for that second rally, they had to be in the same thematic and have similar companies showing strength at the very same time. And that was eye-opening for me. And that's where that statistic that we consistently talk about comes from, is that it's more than twice as likely to do it. So I looked at all those companies that ran and broke out in a similar market climate that we talked about at the very start, a lot of small and micros running. But if I want to find the right small and micro and the probability of it going for that huge run, it needs to be those factors that you've just talked about. And then the overlay, do they have sister strength, which was what Jesse Livermore used to refer to over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Are there other companies in that same industry with similar sort of setups? If yes, then I know that I double my probability of hitting profit target. So I love this setup, whatever it ends up being called. I've spent a very long time studying similar things.
Yeah. Look, it's still a VCP. Don't get me wrong. It's still a VCP. I know. It's funny. I watched the Charles presentation there, and I know the Charles actually referenced the 100% moves as well. So we know that our high type flags that has to have that sort of 90 to 100% move. Then congestion. There, sometimes we get stocks that don't have that type of move, but they can still be explosive, followed by a congestion, and then another move. So it's kind of that in between. There's a lot of trades that don't make that 90 to 100% move initially, and then so maybe they have like a 30, 40%. Like there may be like a bigger stock they have a 30-40% move, then they can track there. So there's a lot of those don't fall into that, or
There's most,
yeah,
there's always the large caps.
yeah, but it's still showing good signs there, and then holding the MAs. And I know like Kalamagi looks for the strongest stocks to hold the 10. So something like this, you can see like DUG. I know a few traders were talking about this one to me, and then and I actually a few guys were talking about this on this day here as well. When it reversed there, because I think it was the update was on this day, and it wasn't particularly. I read it, didn't think anything of it, but few guys I know were talking about this stock to watch here. I mean, it did make a B-wave break here on the 22nd of August. That would have been a bit of a trigger for me. There might have been a low cheat in here somewhere. But yeah, breaking through that level there would have been a good sign of that. I guess that was a nice little reversal. But it's like the basketball under the water sort of, that sort of show, that sort of sign of strength there. And that was a sort of, I guess, a bit of power there. But that day there was probably the real day, because then again we had a retest of the lower levels and then finished strong, and then we saw big volume come in. So that, and it also broke in the B wave as well on that same day. So that would have been a good trigger there. But you see how that stayed pretty firm here. Then the whole thing tightens up in here. Look at that down day in there as well. No selling there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's holding the 10. So I mean, that's something Kalamagi would love to see. That explosion, big volume. These are bounced off the lows there, so it's showing its strength. And now it pops through here, and then and then it keeps going again. And again, it has another congestion there, sits on the 10 as well. So
Low volume.
yeah,
Pull back.
it's like it's right. So look at those, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you've seen that volume just dry up here on the MA. So that's why it's hard there to get your head around momentum trading. It takes a long time. Is it like, even for an old dog like me, it's taken me, I didn't trade momentum for the first sort of 10 or 15 years of my life. I probably thought I was trading momentum, but I wasn't. I was just, looking for I was looking for the same technical setups all the time. But now we're really, we know that all the top performers in the market are all trading the strongest names. As they're trading the stocks that are showing relative strength. We know the strongest performance show that relative strength out of the low. So they're either, when the market's pulling back, they're showing strength, or when the market comes out of the low, they show extra strength. So they're showing, either way you look at it, they're showing relative strength versus all the other stocks on the market, and they're the stocks you're going to follow. So history says they're the stocks that are the strongest moves there. So that's what we're looking for. We're just showing that sort of sign of strength, and then the strength, and then the pause, and then the strength and the pause. And I do think studying that's why you often see that the 10 and the 20 and even the 50 gets mentioned as well. That's why we're on there. But that's for me, I've probably 4.5 years now in Chris of using these MOs. So it's taken a while to sort of keep seeing the same things over and over again, and seeing the benefit of actually being above the 50, showing that strength, because we know that success is going to be probably double if we're buying above the 50 rather than under. So we know the stats on that. We know the stats on basically buying the leaders versus the laggards. That's we know sort of Sam Weinstein's sort of if you're buying in a strong sector versus a weak sector, the performance is going to be like at least double, maybe triple. Yeah. So we know all these stats there. So it's just about putting them all together and doing the right thing here. But I think hopefully that little analogy there might help some of these newer momentum based sort of traders there, or people just starting to learn here just what to look for. Look for them to come back and sit on those moving averages, or sit on the ropes, as the great Muhammad Ali with a drop. But AYA was number 24 there. Just look, this is a stock that had shown strength there. Bit of a cup and handle in here, only a small one. End up sort of doing another little, like a car. I guess you could almost say this was a higher cup and handle. Sometimes we do see this. We saw Nuix, when Nuix was coming through the last bull phase, it made a little cup and handle under the high. Then it made a slight new candle above the high as well. So we kept getting cup and handles within cup and handles, and then coming through. But we saw definitely signs of strength there. But this is actually another, this obviously is a news day. So we actually got an EP there as well. So getting that sort of episodic pivot there. So I know I sort of follow Pradeep on, and a lot of people talking about his strategy, but the EPs in the States have been going crazy. So, but yeah, so it's been a real, like the last 2 months has probably been one of the best periods ever for episodic pivots in terms of how well they've done and how much money they've made. So, so if you follow Pradeep on X, you'll sort of see that, there's a lot going on there, but that's been pretty strong there. We've had a few episodic pivots there. We've had periods where we see them a lot. Then they tend to dry up a bit as well. So they've probably dried up a little bit recently.
Just like pivot kind of thing. We can go years where we don't see many of those.
Yeah. We're just kind of seeing those setups. I guess it's like at the base there. I kept seeing those 0, 1, 2, 3s coming out of that April low, and they were happening faster than I've ever seen them. But they all end up working. They end up being some great, So you sort of see. It's funny, you see what's working there, and you just cotton onto it. So I've even noticed like Nuix, which was a past leader, it did the same sort of thing here. So it had that explosive moves of big 4 days of volume, and then it pulled back here, and the whole thing lightened up, and it sat off this. Yeah, so you got 50 there. You got your little coil there, Chris. I was thinking that you actually similar, because really you've got your 50, your 20, your 10 are all tightening up as well. So when we see that coil there, and I do love to see that little ABC, which is the same with LTP. If you get that little, your VCPs and ABC, and the whole thing tracks, and the volume dries up, that's just sweet. So I managed to get a position on this one personally. I think just because I sort of thought this has been working. So going to add a posi hit. So I think I got knocked out. I sort of saw this, how explosive this was, and then I moved my first leg a little bit higher. Actually, normally I go for around about 2.5 times, but I moved it to around about 3 times a risk.
So now Gary's talking about there with those moving average compressions. There's a whole table in that momentum profile members that they have access to, where they can filter everything on the ASX that has the compressions of those moving averages get within 2% of each other. So that it just shows you. But it's like all things, there's a time for it in each market cycle.
And a little tip for those who do get that report is, if you look in the bottom half of that report, I've personally found that that was the sweeter trades, not the top half. I don't know why that is, but
Well, following that, I actually went and did some deep regression into that and analysis of it, and you're spot on. It was not the coil rank. So we filtered that, and I by default rank it so that the highest number is at the top, because not everything gets a coils rank. And you're spot on. I went back and analyzed it, and they said the higher the coil ranks, the better. And you said that from very early on. You're like, oh, I like the bottom part of the thing. So,
yeah. I don't know. It's just seemed to be it's just seemed to be the ones that sort of pop through. So yeah. But that's our momentum list there covered. Was there any other stocks in there that
there were really 2 that you didn't cover on the members requests. So MTM, which has been a solid performer. Most people will know that chart. Mike Tango Mike. And we've looked at it. We covered in the model book where you looked at it in detail, but it's still running. So what's your take on how it's running over $1 now?
Yeah, look, it's still I mean, it crossed a few moving averages there. We're sort of when it really had that high momentum there through June, it did cross the sort of 10, held the 20, then pushed back up again, but then it did cross back below the 10 and 20. Then it's had another run there. So that would have had me a little bit suspicious after this move. But again, we've come back. We did hold the 50 here. So this might have been, for those looking for those, come back the 3 ways, sit on the moving average there. That might have had me interested there. These sort of, because we were sort of holding the moving average there. So that can be where you get to support and go again. To me personally, if that was sitting on top of that, I would have liked it a bit more. So see how it's sort of sitting below. So it's kind of like, if it sits on top of that previous high, that's a support zone there. So, like when the stocks pull back and sit on top of previous highs, that's what I like to sort of see.
So ideally, the dip in August would have held higher, sat on top of the highs of June, and that would have. And I agree with that. That would have also held the 50 in that case, and I would have been comfortable trading it.
Yeah, so I mean, momentum traders, they're crossing the 50 is a no-no. So really, once you cross by the 50, that can be negative. But look, if you wanted to re-enter there, to me personally, I would only re-enter there on what I call a B-wave break, so breaking a swing high. So that would be up here. So it makes it hard to enter here because where does you stop? So yeah, you'd like to sort of see it pop up. Maybe it can come back and congest. Maybe it starts to hold the 50 here. Maybe this is starting to show signs again because now you've broken a B wave. Okay, that's positive. Congesting here. And then, you just need to sort of, to me, it's all about the risk for me. I just want to be, I got to contain my risk. That's all. So I know stocks go up and down there, but if I can't get a low risk entry, I'm with Kalamagi. Yeah, I'm with sort of Kalamagi. If it's loose, your losses can be pretty large in there. If it's nice and tight, I mean that, keep going back to that chart here, but that just tightened up. That, so that I know sort of like Jack Lassalle to look at that range and go, okay, that's a 47 to 45.5. So that's a 1.5 cent range.
Yeah.
So I know, so his method there is, okay, as soon as the price breaks out of that range, if it breaks above, I buy it. If it breaks below, maybe I'd sell it.
Disregard it.
Yeah, or disregard it, yeah. But if it breaks above that range, then I buy a range break above 47, and maybe it goes, I'll buy it up to say 47.5, 48 cents maximum. So it opens at 47.5, so you buy it there up to 48 or 48.5 cent limit, and then and you use that probably. That stop at 45.5 would be a low. So you might put it, 0.5 cent or 1 cent below that. So that's a, 47.5, 48 with a, 45 cent stop. It's it's a nice and tight stop. So the risk is low. So therefore you can get a position of size on if you've got a tight stop. Where, that
MTN.
MTM there, we don't know. Like putting that trade on a B-wave break here, well, that's where if we're buying this at 79, the 50 is back at 70, maybe 69. So 10 cents on a 79. That's like a 12, 13% stop, Chris. That's getting pretty wide.
That's too wide for me.
Yeah, it's too wide for me as well. So, I want to, the small stocks are hard to trade because each tick is a big percentage as well. So, you'd hope this maybe tightens up here. Maybe this tightens up here, a little VCP, might give us another entry there. But then, maybe you buy a break above here, 83 cents, but then your stop might be this low here, 73 cents. That's still 10 cents. That's still 12, 13%. That's still too big. So, yeah. So, your stops are going to be in a good place as well. So that's the key there.
Just quickly before we have the next request on it, while you've got MTM on the screen, this is exactly what the signal strength is saying. It's saying we need to stick with momentum leaders. Because it hasn't gone sideways for a quarter, it still has momentum strength. It still has a good momentum rake. It's unlikely to show up in the launch pad. So MTM is not going to reload in the launch pad and then come back in for its next surge. And the signal strength tells us we're not looking for that. We've actually got to just keep monitoring the likes of MTM for the next breakout. In saying that, I can't see that I would have traded it in a comfortable setup as you just put down.
Yeah.
And that's what it's telling us. And that's what you've identified with those momentum leaders. I know we're pushing on with time. So just quickly, the last one was ZNC, Zulu, November, Charlie. Oh, you've got 40X. You're going to tell us on here, are you?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, obviously like 40X has had a really explosive mood here, and now it's starting to go through a tightening phase. So now we're monitoring that stock for a tightening phase. We're sort of, if we see the whole thing tightens up, then we're hopefully looking for that contraction, tight price action, have a bit of a breather, then a low risk entry as well. That's a really important thing, I'm trying to think of it. SKS or something might have been, this could go back there 2 years there. See, we can sort of see, in this period there. So the whole thing just tightened up in here, tight, and then, okay, if it breaks through here, there's a little B wave there, and then I put my stop in here and then my target's there. that's nice and tight, and then bang, explode there. Even here as well, see the whole thing tightens up again in here. Okay, so we're looking for like, if it breaks above, swing high. That's why we're buying strength. The pros are always buying strength. They're not trying to preempt this there. As soon as we break above 147, we're going to buy this up to a limit of say 148, 149, and then come through that. And we'll put a stop at the last low here. What's this, 141.5? So maybe 140. So we might buy it at 148. We get a 141 stop, 7 cents on 140. That's only 5%. That's pretty good for momentum stock. So, risk is pretty low. We get a nice tight entry here, and then let the rest do our business. So those are the ingredients we're looking for, is that now strength, congestion, tightness, low risk, and then showing some sort of strength, following that strength there. Those are all the characteristics we want to be sort of looking for.
Right. Well, we should probably move to the launchpad leaders. We've got a lot of them. So interestingly, there were only a few member requests from the momentum list and a lot from the launchpad. So we probably have to machine gun fire through a lot of them. So you start off with the ones that you like, and we'll come back with what's left.
Yeah, it's this one's interesting to me. I have followed this ABH before here, but what we won't see here on the weekly is like an overlapping low here. So it's sort of like, a little 1, 2, 3 thrust sort of low, and has come back to the old low as well. So that's a really big low on the technical zone there. So what was that? 128, and we went to 127. So big false breaks. I love that. So come back and retesting an old range, go a cent or two lower and recover there. That's something I've looked at in the past there, with seeing markets get a new high by a couple of cents and fail there and then start to roll off as well. So that naturally gets me looking at that sort of stock there. But also the fact that this has a little 1, 2, 3 thrust low as well. That's like an overlapping low. So it's not, everyone thinks there's a bit of a downtrend there, but you're not sort of, each rally that is coming back up into the mix. It's only just going marginally lower each time and coming back up in the mix there. So it's not sort of sitting like a staircase building on top. It's not building underneath there. It's overlapping there. And then, so what we've seen here, we've seen a nice explosion here, some good volume here now. So this has got to go on the radar to me. And then now we want to see some sort of congestion there. So stay in the top half, congest there, use up a bit of time, tighten up, look for low risk entry. So just for me, it'll be on my radar. It'll be one I watch. Definitely seeing a bit of activity in that sector, Chris. I think some of the biotechs, medical names are sort of have been.
So the diagnostic studies and reading equipment like X-ray and that kind of thing, they've still been strong for months. But just recently we saw, I think it was neurosurgery and cardiac this week. Those things come up solidly. Anyway.
Yeah. AQD, I thought number 5 on the list there. I thought that looked pretty interesting as well, just because it's had that sort of sign of strength there, has gone sort of sideways for a period. So a little bit of an undercut. So kind of that would, if this was a bigger stock there, it would kind of meet my trade requirements there, because it's sort of stayed in the top half. It's done an undercut of the previous low in the top half. Come through here. So I don't mind the look of this, but not for me, because it's only 4 cent stock here. But that's a pretty good sign, because we've seen that great strength. We know these stocks can go through like a 3, 5 or 7 month pause before the next leg starts there. So nothing wrong with that at all, except apart from the fact that it's a 4.4 cent stock. That's the only thing wrong for me. But the setup is pretty good. AL3, interesting again, look, just because it's had that sort of show of strength, come back. ABC, it's a little deeper here, but I have seen them come in again here. So it's a bit of a watch to me. Too small for me personally, but be one to watch for some sort of contraction. MVP, I sort of got a bit of a question mark on here, not a bit messy, not enough volume sort of coming through there, so I didn't really like that. CUV is actually really interesting to me. I sort of followed this stock for quite a while. It's kind of broken out, big sort of descending sort of wedge as well here on the weekly. And I had a bit of burst there. Don't like the fact that we saw some big selling come in after it ran, so definitely got to watch that there. But that stock's interesting there, Chris, because I was looking at, kind of reminds me a little bit of what's that? The housing one that just got taken over there.
BKI with
The
control pads.
the, the insurance company that done all the builds.
Oh, John Ling.
John Len, yeah. So it was one of the biggest positions I built there previously. But I'm going to watch this one here because, like, the CUV market cap, I think around $11. Market cap's about 500 mil. It's got about 200 mil in cash. These around sort of 14, 40 and a half, something like that. It's got some big catalysts coming up next year for the stock as well. So, going to get a NASDAQ listing by the end of the year. Probably going to replace, well, the CEO is going to will be gone next year. And then he's one of the reasons why the market doesn't love the stock is the CEO is a bit unloved. But they'll probably go for a US based CEO next year. And they've got two sort of trials. There's a smaller trial coming up, I think, early next year, and then a big trial coming up in September next year. So a bit like NEU, it's got a base price there at the moment. Sort of like there's nothing, like the existing business looks really cheap here, but there are probably three big catalysts next year for the stock here. And I think NEU had the sort of same thing when it was, remember that, so it was down pretty low and now it's got had a few catalysts for it. So the only thing with CUV is those catalysts are a little bit down the track here. So I think we've got a little bit of time for it, but yeah, I think if this sort of stock comes back into the 1050s or 1080s and stuff, they'll be watching this one there because this reminded me of John Ling being really, really cheap in terms of from valuation perspective. And you're starting to see a bit of activity in that sector as well. So yeah, so EGR was probably one of the more interesting charts I thought out of the whole lot.
Yep.
It's had that really sharp strength there. It's had the pause there. It's come back a little bit deep. But then since then, we've tightened up. We did get a VCP in here and a little breakout. Looked like it might be on, but then it's only had a mini run and fade again. And it's sort of congested, come back here, come back and retested the low here and then broken up again, but then just had another minute. So, but now this whole thing there is congesting. That's just come through a little B-wave break here. That's, little mini high here. So the last couple haven't gone on, but the good thing there is it's had a run, then faded. So maybe you can get if you could get set there and then just while you stop up, kind of good. Remember that's still a pretty good setup here, considering how hot the smalls are. That's been a pretty robust there. It's just been high, low, high, low, high, low. It's actually not looking too bad there. I circled that one there. I thought I need to go and have a look, maybe read up and see what's happening in there. Yeah.
I think it was Brian who put that suggestion through, asking if it was a VCP. But as you're talking through that 100% rally, kind of folding 50% of the range, I'm counting the months down below on the x-axis: September, August, July. Some of your model books that you went through, the leaders had 5-6 month sort of contractions after that, right? So it's possible.
I think most of them press that within between 5 and 7. And there are some somewhere so somewhere as little as 3, but not many. But it seemed like a majority were in that sort of after that big burst. I'd say probably maybe 60% were sort of in that 5 to 7 month window. So that's kind of like that's only
leaders. A lot of leaders show that.
Yeah. And if that's only our sort of study in the last few years, I wouldn't say that's the history. That's the correct number there, but that's just I guess the last sort of few years there, that's the sort of number it looks like.
You pulled out sort of 15, 16 of the market's best performers in the last 5 years, and a lot of them had that. So anyone can watch those model books, but we should keep firing away with your launchpad because we've got a lot to tick through.
Yeah, SLX, obviously, we'll talk about uranium there. Again, around that energy theme, just keep, my view is I would just keep rotating through that energy theme. We're seeing, one sector have a hot run and then a cool off and then, so look for that congestion, the tightening, popping again. So we've got a little bit of a strong move here. We've had a pull back here. The whole thing did tighten up here. There was a little bit of a B-wave break here on this day. That, I could have bought this here, but then be pretty hard there where your stop is. But for me, if I bought this day here, I would use that as, either use like a 50-day moving average. So, what's the high there? Say 433. So, say I bought that, say 434. then the moving average is the 50 is back at 411. So that's about 20 cents. So that's okay. That's not bad. It's only about 5%. So that's okay. So you don't want to really do too much wide of that. I don't mean to be any sort of in that 5% window. You could go a little bit further down, though. Some traders like to give themselves a bit more room. If you're going to give yourself a bit more room, then you want to be a bit lighter in size. If you want to sort of scale up into some size here, then you don't want to give yourself too much room. So I'm normally looking to put up 10% position on minimum to start with. But on that bar there, Chris, I might even use that low. So 419 was the low. I might, sometimes I go, I'll use 2 cents below that. So I go 417. Just give yourself maybe. Sometimes I can go back and retest, or go flick it by a cent. Or give myself 2 cents below it sometimes. Yeah, but there's no correct method there. Sometimes you'll get hit. Or go a cent or two lower, but it's definitely worth giving yourself a little bit of room there. The great crop, give it, with your stops there, give yourself a chance to be right. So VUL is pretty interesting there. I bought this twice actually, Chris. I bought this coming out of this because there was a little wedge in here, and this has got a large VCP pattern as well on the daily and the weekly. See, the weekly is really tightening up. It's sort of stayed in the top half as well, and it sort of held that previous. So it's a bit of a technical level here. The whole thing's contracted here, contracted there, and I thought this prime move on the daily there was a really nice looking descending wedge in there, and we came out of there. The good thing was that it came out. I managed to get my stop to break even there. I don't know if I traded 2.5 times, probably not, but I think I pulled back and got stopped out again. Then I sort of watched it again. Okay, this is the thing about don't get up on the trades. They can come back and set up again. So this did have a bit of a pop here. I think congestion there, and it might have been so Monday I came back here and fresh eyes after a week off, and I could buy this. I bought this breaker there because I thought this is big on a weekly, big VCP. Bit of volume down here still. That energy sector, it's just a sector I think still going to be thriving. I mean, I can't get that Sam Altman comment out of my head that AI first Google search is 10 times the energy. That's just blown my mind. Yeah, that was actually I've been listening to a lot of AI stuff here in the last week, Chris, and about listening to a few doomsdayers as well about the risks of AI and how so there are some risks there. But one guy said something here because it's all about talking about the other, because we're kind of comparing AI to other major technical breakthroughs, and how there's a theory there that as one technology comes in, obviously you get a lot of job losses there, and that new industries are sort of started up. But these guys are saying these guys are looking at it differently. With the wheel and the fire, the age of the machine, the computer, the internet, it sort of led to more jobs there.
New industries.
Yeah, what this guy said is his quote was, and it struck me. This is the last invention we ever have to make. So, and that hit me. It hit me in the middle. I thought, wow, okay, because in theory at the moment there's most of these sort of AI agents, AI sort of people pretty deep in there, are saying that I reckon 50-60% of jobs, existing jobs, will be redundant in the next few years. So what are we doing? So so some of the guys that are deep in AI sort of stuff, saying next 15 years with either going to be no humans on the planet, or it's that the industry and business and the way of life is going to look completely different. Are the two different sort of spectrums there. Staying the same is sort of like everyone thinks AI is not going to stay the same. It's going to be rapid development, change and stuff there. I know there's a great image there in the 1900s of the first car with a horse and stuff there, and then
all the horses on the street.
Yeah.
One about the first horse.
So 1913, there's an image there. There's no horses on So within 10 to 13 years, that there was no horses there. So, but that could be us. We could be the horses. So as well, maybe nervous sort of thing about this. Oh, Jesus, okay. But yeah, I do think that people have a lot more spare time on their hands. So I think the share market might be one place where people spend more time. So
Hopefully it'll be good for you and me. John Maynard Keynes proposed the idea of the 4-day work week over 100 years ago, saying that the improvements in efficiencies and productivity, we would soon then be doing a 4-day work week and trade our work time for leisure time and completely change the dynamic of the human race and what we do. That didn't quite happen, and we just decided to fill our time with more stuff. And we're good at that, except in Australia where we've had a productivity glut for 20 years, but we're getting towards politics and we want to talk about Launchpad. So anything else on the Launchpad that's showing up for you?
Yeah, so I like that VUL. It's pretty good. Good volume so far. It's come out pretty hard in the right sector. ACE was sort of one that looks pretty interesting. That's the Excensus, which has got the cameras which catch us speed cameras. So yeah, great industry, making good money. A lot of people, it's an easy way for the governments, states to make money cheaply.
Minority Report. We stoke.
Yeah, so this is a great stock here. It's just the stock lacks a bit of liquidity, Chris. It's like, and these guys maybe actually, it sounds funny, can actually raise some money for a project and get some more liquidity, get the stock,
get more life in it.
Yeah. But it's not expensive here. It's still got a reasonable market cap's not particularly large and pretty exciting areas. I reckon it's actually one to keep an eye on here. Actually, I've liked this stock for quite a long time. It's had a good run and a little pause here, but definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there. IMU has sort of had a little bit of a burst there, but it's a bit of a laggard there. So I reckon it's a bit of a danger sign. BGL, again, in that gold space there, it's a laggard as well. It's a bit like the SBN as well. Sort of, that's had a good run here, but it has been a laggard as well. So just got to be careful where, the laggards are all breaking out. Triple T, I thought was interesting there, just because that sort of has been a bit of a leader of the past, Chris. Has sort of shown some strength there. And it's come back to the 50 day as well. It's just, I don't like the buy. Yeah, it's overlapping too. It's not, I love to see a trend sitting on top, not overlapping. So, but still pretty robust, still pretty measured, still looks constructive. So, as we know, when the strong trends like this, they can keep running a lot further than we think, but it just doesn't have the classic sign of strength there. I thought this was actually pretty interesting as well, was the Metals X, the MLX there. So big VCP on the daily hit, sort of tightening up and just come through a little bit of a B wave for me, and good volume through here. But what I liked here was when I zoomed out too and thought, okay, well, this is kind of like a big, this can go back up to this might be could go a big cup and handle here, might go back up to this handle here. So the whole thing's tightening up in here. Pretty good volume. Like it's actually got really good volume coming through there, sort of broken out as well. So the whole thing's set on top of the previous high. Yeah, I thought, I really like the look of that. So to me, I could see that going back up to retest that level. Maybe, up there, but it's definitely a sector which is in play at the moment as well. So, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, hit me with the other one.
We'll do a request. There's a request first, and we'll have to go quickly. So, TTM.
DTM. Yeah, just too small, bit loose there. But looks okay. Good volume on the way up. Lighter volume pulling back. How does that look? A little bit longer term there. Not too bad there. That's a good block of volume through here. And it's sort of stayed in the top half here so far. So one to watch.
Might need to see a bit more on it. Yeah. AMI, Alpha Mike Indigo.
AMI. Yeah, that's a pretty hard knock down there.
Big volume.
Yeah, come back pretty deep. A lot of aggressive selling here. So it's had a bit of this might be a dead cat here. So definitely some riffs there with that one. Not for me. That would be, yeah.
November Victor Alpha, NVA.
NVA, I didn't mind. Yeah, I didn't mind this there. I think maybe it's too small for me, but yeah, that's a bit of that's a VCP as well, Chris. It sort of had that strength, tightening up here and tightening up again. So yeah, I didn't mind that. What did I do here? NVA. Yeah, no, I didn't mind it actually. I didn't mind it. It has gone to a new high there, so it's broken a swing high on the way down here. Just got a lot of overhead. That's probably the one negative. We've seen here a lot of those stocks with a lot of overhead struggle to sort of get going. It's sort of like they can have a nice rally, but as soon as they stop, you see the pretty decent, selling come in. But yeah, not bad. Just too small for me, but I don't mind the look of it.
BVS, Bravo Victor.
Yeah, this one's just too messy, too loose. Look how loose that is. That's not, yeah. I mean, I know it showed some strength there, but since then it's been really volatile, been very loose there. So yeah, where do you put stop? Risk management. That's the thing about making money here. We're sort of, it's what's trying to think of the phrase there. Might be, you need, just need to be able to control your risk and stuff there. So, that's one there where, when you just like, where does your stock sort of go and that sort of thing? You sort of, it's just too loose.
Yeah, it's probably a safer trade somewhere in the market right now. Yeah. CCE, Charlie Echo. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had an explode there. So hung the 50 there predominantly. I only spent maybe 1 or 2 days there. So there's that sort of hugging that 50 again. But yeah, I mean, like that might have been the only signal for me was that's come through. Yeah, it might be an episodic pivot, but also break a 52-week high as well. So on volume. So, but it's too small for me. It's only 7-8 cents. But, if we saw something like that building and then closed at a 52-week high on pretty strong volume, that's sort of something. For some reason I was thinking Larry Hite, one of his quotes, but Larry Hite is one of the big, he buys 52-week highs. I think that's his strategy there where he talks about the history of 52-week highs is like it's 80-20, I think 80% failure rate, but the 20% net, 20% every year. So the 20% run, So if you use like a 5% stop and a 5% trail or something like that, I think something simple, it nets 20% over time. So, nice. But most people don't like that strategy because they can't deal with being right only 20% of the time.
Yeah, that's the thick skin. Yeah. Carnegie's got a thick skin and he's right a lot more than that. Yeah. We should jump on. So what's the next one is SSM, Sierra Mike.
SSM. Just a typical 1 hour. Obviously been a strong stock here. Did cut the 50, then peel back above it here. Just kind of like sometimes when you can get loose at the end. That sign of volatility there, like your greatest volatility is usually at the lows or at the highs. It's not usually in the middle of the trend. So when it starts getting loose, that's usually, you got to ask yourself, is this a high or is this a low here? So I'm not sure this is the start of another low here. This might just be the last little push here, and that's oftentimes how they can kind of end here. But look, you have to see this tighten up here, congest, maybe sit on top of the previous high. But not for me at this stage. But probably one to watch, but some risk there.
Okay, next one is KAI, Kilo Alpha Indigo, Carrier Minerals.
Just too small for me. Just a bit loose as well, a bit up and down. Hard to trade those percentages.
MVP, so Medical Developments.
Yeah, I did look at this one there. Just a little bit overlappy as well. So had that sign of strength which you want to see, but what you don't want to see is it come back 3/4 or 90% of the move. You want to see this explosive move on good volume like it had, and then you want to see it pull back and hold in the top half there, which it hasn't done. So it's come all the way back, so move again, it's come through all the way back, then move again, come through all the way back, move again, 3/4 back, move again. That is so loose. There's just, I'm going to get stopped out 8 times out of 10 there, which is what you don't want. So you want to be low risk sort of setups. They're nice and tight. So yeah, just too erratic there.
Well, that's it for the Launchpad requests. And anyone who wants to get the requests, send them through and mark up your charts and review it at the same time to keep enhancing that momentum trading education. Join below. You'll get the list at the same time as Gary. And we say thank you and very much welcome back, Gary Glover from Novus Capital. But you've got something you want to say?
Oh, I just saying, give us a name for that trade there. Whether if you like the rumble and the jumble, or the rover to go, or maybe the Ali, or the left combo. Yeah. Please, if you got a better name, please reach out and
yeah, definitely.
Leave some comments here.
Yeah, we want to see that. We want to see. So put the comment below for the name, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, God. See ya.